aren't preventing him from garnering attention by teams. So as first reported by the Cincinnati Enquirer and confirmed by ESPN, the Bengals hosted Mixon this weekend. He was not invited to the scouting showcase because in July of 2014, he broke multiple bones in a woman's face after he punched her in a bar. Stephen A., let's not beat around the bush. The Bengals have cost themselves playoff games with penalties and not being able to keep themselves in check. Should they even be considering bringing Mixon aboard?
Absolutely not. They're a dysfunctional environment, and I blame Marvin Lewis for that. Listen, I know it comes across like I'm no fan of Marvin Lewis. I really need people to understand where I'm coming from here. Marvin Lewis, I am sure, knows the game of football. I'm sure from an X's and O's standpoint, this guy was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore. This guy's got a Super Bowl title on his resume as a coordinator. This man has done it before. That's how he got ultimately became the head coach.
And they get to the playoffs.
And we get it. And they do get to the playoffs. The man has been the head coach 14 years, has never won a playoff game. We cannot talk about anybody outside of Jeff Fisher. We cannot talk about anybody losing their job without bringing up Marvin Lewis. Because by keeping him on board, you're saying the priority is not winning. But then when you take into account some of the behavioral issues that they have had in Cincinnati throughout his tenure there as head coach, he sort of runs, he's perceived as an individual that sort of runs a loose environment. He's not the ultimate disciplinarian. For some reason, players get to his program and they try him. They try him in ways they wouldn't try Jimmy Johnson. They try him in ways they wouldn't try Bill Parcells. They try him in ways they wouldn't have tried Bill Cowher.
See, Vontaze perfect.
You see what I'm saying? You see all of these things. And so as a result of that, it's not really about Mixon. America's the land of second chances. The man apologized. We all know he was wrong. We talked about that ad nauseum. But in the end,
hopefully it's an isolated incident.
Hopefully it's an isolated incident. But in the end, he's a first-round talent, Max, that somebody obviously should consider. I'm not pointing at Mixon. I'm pointing to the Cincinnati Bengals environment. I think it's pretty damn close to toxic. And I think that anything with Marvin Lewis in that regard, you should not invite potentially more trouble. Let him show us he can handle the trouble that he already has and actually win a damn playoff game for the first time in his coaching career.
We can't pretend that there's not something going on in Cincinnati, because going into that Steelers game, the national story was, would anyone act up? And they handed, it was like, you know, he saw 14 yards to kick a field goal.
They gave it away.
And they handed them on the last play 15 yards by Burfict losing his cool when he was the subject of national scrutiny before the game. It was unbelievable. That said, if you don't think Mixon deserves a look, I get it. That goes for all teams. If you're the type of person who were to say, if I'm the GM of a team, I wouldn't even look at this guy. Okay, I get that. But if you're taking the position that he does deserve a look, that you would evaluate him, totally evaluate him, his play, take this into consideration, what it means about him, the fact that it will live on forever in social media, on the internet, and it'll be a distraction. Of course, you have to take all that into consideration. But for the teams that take all that into consideration, look at his character, talk to him, and think that they want to use him, then I would say if Cincinnati starts eliminating guys like that, they are doing themselves a disservice, because in order to have him on your team, he would have to pass those tests for you.
Go ahead.
Can I add one thing? So I disagree with you on Marvin Lewis from the front of the playoffs, because at least he gets his team there, and he consistently gets them there. I understand not winning the games, but it's far better than other teams. As far as I can't poke holes in the argument in the team being out of control and the penalties and costing themselves playoff games, that's inexcusable. But I am with Stephen A. here with Joe Mixon. This isn't the right environment. And I do think he deserves a second chance, but I don't think this is the right team just based on what we're seeing of the culture. If there are question marks there, it's not the team I want to see him with, or from the Bengals' perspective.
Let me first piggyback off your point. We sit here, and obviously on a collegiate level, more so, Max and Molly, than on a pro level, we've talked about the paucity of African-American coaches having opportunities. I, as a black man, cannot sit here in the interest of fairness and constantly point to ineptitude on the part of other coaches and ignore the fact that Marvin Lewis can't win a playoff game in more than a decade. Now, I am not saying that Marvin Lewis does not deserve to be a head coach. I am saying he shouldn't be the head coach in Cincinnati.
It's not working.
You've been there long enough. You can't get it done. You need to go somewhere else. To Mixon. Now we sit here and we talk about the dysfunctional environment, Max. All I'm saying to you is this. Any walk of life, when you hire somebody, it's not just on their own individual talent. It's on the culture that you have in place. And you constantly ask yourself, what part fits? What's a square peg into a round hole, potentially? You monitor that reality, and you make your decision accordingly. Cincinnati is that round hole, okay? Or maybe they're the square peg, and Joe Mixon's the round hole. It doesn't work. You're asking for disaster.
If you believe Mixon is a recidivist, bad behavior, problem, that's not an isolated incident, or if you believe it really is a Marvin Lewis problem and not, say, a Vontaze Burfict problem in the recent past, then you're right. Depends on where you come down on those issues.
It's a bad marriage to me. It's too risky.
I think that there's something. Joe Mixon, it might be a one-time incident, okay? And he might be able to move on. Here's the problem. When you're in the wrong environment, who's there to cultivate you, and where's the culture that dissuades you from doing anything? Now, wait a minute. Nixon might not ever do this again, but he might do something else stupid that will remind us about it. In that environment, those potentialities exist.
I would point out that
leadership around
I would point out that even the Patriots have had extremely bad actors on the team. I mean, we know what I'm talking about.
But they win.
Extremely bad.
But what I'm saying to you is that they gloss over it because they get rid of you and they win. Cincinnati keeps losing. You have no latitude.
The criminal justice system got rid of, you know, it wasn't.
And Bill Belichick knows how to handle those guys. Coming up, who is going to win the title? Stephen A. knows his final take. Interested to hear that.